The world's most notorious serial killer might never have been caught if his typewriter had been functioning properly. Viewers, imagine a doctor, a figure of trust in society, committing serial killings with such cunning that no one suspects a thing. But after 23 years, how did a series of murders come to an end due to some mistakes made by this killer? Discover everything in today's documentary.
The serial killer Harold Shipman.
Welcome once again to DocuQuest's videos. This is the true story of Dr. Harold Frederick Shipman, born on January 14, 1946, in Nottingham, England. He came from a middle-class family. At the tender age of 17, his mother, Vera Britton, succumbed to lung cancer. Deeply affected by his mother's death, young Dr. Harold turned to drugs. However, despite his circumstances, he excelled in his studies, and in 1965, at just 19 years old, he earned an MBCHB degree from the University of Leeds. In 1970, he began his career at Pontefract General Hospital as a general practitioner. By 1974, he had moved to Todmorden, working at the Abraham Ormerod Medical Center. During his tenure there, he was caught prescribing pethidine, a narcotic to some patients. Pethidine is a pain-relieving drug, but in slightly higher doses, it induces a sense of calm. Dr. Harold used this drug for his own addiction and prescribed it to his patients, ensuring they felt calm and trusted him more, thus returning to him with hopes of recovery. When the hospital administration discovered this, they fired Dr. Harold, and his medical license was at risk of being revoked. He managed to save it by paying a fine of £600. To regain trust, he admitted himself to a nearby drug rehabilitation center. Cleverly, he preserved his license and, after spending some time in rehab, convinced everyone he would never use drugs again. He resumed work at Donnybrook Medical Center in Hyde. However, during this period, he neither quit drugs nor stopped killing patients by administering higher doses of narcotics whenever he had the chance. He continued his killing spree while maintaining such a good rapport with his patients that no one suspected him. In 1993, having established trust with his patients, he opened his clinic, The Surgery, in Hyde. His modus operandi involved building strong relationships with elderly patients, aged 70 to 90, visiting them at their homes, and taking meticulous care of their treatment. With his friendly demeanor, he garnered 3,000 patients out of Hyde's 30,000 population, giving him ample opportunity for his killing spree. Some patients even entrusted him with the keys to their homes. Exploiting this trust, he administered lethal doses of morphine, killing them without arousing suspicion. He would attribute their deaths to old age. However, suspicion was first raised by Dr. Linda Reynolds, who worked at a clinic adjacent to Dr. Harold's. She noticed that despite having 3 times more patients, her clinic saw 14 deaths in a week, whereas Dr. Harold's smaller clinic had 16 deaths in the same period. It was also peculiar that sometimes no one died at Dr. Harold's clinic for 2 weeks, and then several patients would die in a single week. The reason was that Dr. Harold did not get the opportunity. Based on this suspicion, Dr. Linda Reynolds informed the police and investigation teams, but Dr. Harold managed to escape due to the meticulous records he had maintained. He resumed his work with confidence, believing he would never be caught. However, when he started killing more frequently, some patients' relatives became suspicious because their loved ones did not have any major or life-threatening illnesses like cancer or diabetes, nor did they experience sudden increases in blood pressure that could cause sudden death. Additionally, it was surprising that his patients often died sitting in chairs and wearing good clothes, whereas typically people die lying in bed. Due to these suspicions, some relatives spoke to Dr. Harold, who attributed the deaths to old age and expressed sympathy, reassuring everyone. But his actions were not going to go unnoticed for much longer. Since opening his clinic, he had started killing, a large number of innocent elderly men and women. His time of being caught was near when he killed 3 more patients, including an 81-year-old woman named Kathleen Grundy, on June 24, 1998. Kathleen Grundy was a retired teacher and the former mayor of Hyde. By the time he killed her, he had gathered a lot of information about her and quickly recorded all her details in his computer, including the cause of death, and prepared all the documents and records accurately. In his attempt to cover up another murder, he even forged a will, transferring Kathleen's house to his name. When he showed this will to her lawyer daughter, Angela Woodruff, it aroused her curiosity about her mother's sudden death. Although Dr. Harold had reassured her about the situation, the greed displayed in the will led to his downfall. The will mentioned a house in Dr. Harold's name, but Kathleen Grundy's daughter knew that her mother had 2 houses in Hyde, while the will mentioned only one. This convinced her that the will was written by someone unaware of the second house. Based on this, Angela Woodruff contacted the police and investigation teams, leading to Dr. Harold's arrest. However, this was not substantial evidence for any action against him. Meanwhile, the police and investigation teams exhumed Kathleen Grundy's buried body for an autopsy, a process through which expert doctors can determine the cause of death. The autopsy report revealed that Kathleen had died from an overdose of the narcotic drug morphine. Now, the police and investigation teams began to gather more evidence against this ruthless and cruel doctor. During this period, law enforcement intensified their investigation, seizing the suspect's clinic, computer, typewriter, and various document files for comprehensive forensic analysis. A forensic computer expert meticulously scrutinized the digital evidence and discovered that the dates of death had been repeatedly altered. And the most significant evidence was the typewriter used to write Kathleen Grundy's fake will. Some buttons and letters were missing from the typewriter, and the same missing letters were found in the will. Dr. Harold tried to tell another false story, claiming that Kathleen used to borrow his typewriter for writing her documents. But now, all his stories were baseless because the police and investigation teams had solid evidence against him. This was the moment when Dr. Harold realized for the first time that he had been caught, and the crimes he committed under the guise of being a doctor had come to an end. When news of his arrest spread through the city, the relatives of his other patients also came forward, and solid evidence of 15 murders was found. As a result, on January 15, 2000, the court sentenced him to 15 life imprisonments for 15 murders, ensuring he would remain in prison for the rest of his life. Finally, in 2004, committed suicide by hanging himself with a bedsheet in his prison cell, thus ending the reign of this cruel man. Viewers, the number of his murders, according to investigation reports, ranged from 215 to 284. But a fellow inmate of Dr. Harold revealed an astonishing fact. Before his death, Dr. Harold told him he had committed 508 murders. Due to these murders, he was given various names such as Dr. Death, the Angel of Death, and the Good Doctor. Esteemed viewers and listeners, the reason for his murders has never been determined. Some people speculated that his killing spree was triggered by his mother's cancer because, in the 1960s, there was no cure for diseases like cancer, so doctors would administer morphine to relieve pain, which had a profound effect on his mind. However, no solid reason has ever come to light. Viewers, what do you think was the reason for his murders? Please share your valuable opinions in the comment section. And yes, if you have made it this far, now watch this video in which I discuss the mystery of hijacking a plane. I'll see you there. Take care. Bye.